I think I can make games that can be sold, but I'm still like refining the process. You were talking about games that could be sold, but are
Like a slice of
fly
your whole idea.
of the whole idea, right? So, how can I find other games that are using the same technique so I can like get ideas from that? Like, oh, this is how they did that. Let me learn from that and apply those learnings to my own game or my own career.
Okay.
Like in Steam, for example.
Let me think a little bit. I mean, I have a couple answers. Let me find the most effective way you can go about doing that. Probably, I think the best time you can spend is on marketing research to figure out that answer. Because, for example, if you talk platformers, there are different sized platformers, right? There are ones that are hyper casual, super simple, and Rayman on the or Ori and the Blind Forest, right? So platformer games, they can be tiny.
Oh, from hyper casual to Ori. Okay, okay.
Yeah, there's this whole spectrum of possible games, right? In the end, you do these exercises that you're really working hard to find an overlap between the things that you like making, the things that you know how to make well, and things that have a market, right? The market doesn't have to be as big as people tend to think. This is another thing that I remember changed a lot from when I began. I used to just, I used to think that the game had to be successful. Being successful is like a tag, right? It's successful or it's not successful, or it's somewhat successful. Nowadays, I work with numbers. So it's simple math. When you think, for example, okay, if I spend like 4 months of my life developing a game, what kind of game can I make in terms of complexity, right? Start with that. Then search for games that have the same level of complexity in the same genre, and see if there are games with that level of complexity that have sold. And I can tell you how to do that.
Exactly. How can I find games that size that or that level of complexity that have sold? That's exactly what I'm trying to ask.
So definitely what you don't want to do is try to remember from your memory the games, right? That's survivorship bias. What you need to do is research. So if you think of the games just by filtering the games that you remember, those are the games that survived somehow, that got your attention and were memorable enough for you to remember. So what you want to do instead is look at all the games, the ones that failed, the ones that sold a lot of units, and figure out in that scale where you are capable of aiming. Now, one pretty easy way to do that is using Steam Spy's tags. So Steam Spy is a database that crawls data from Steam and estimates how many units the game has sold, right? Now, this used to be their main feature. Nowadays, because Steam kind of revoked the access to some of the data, they don't come up with a sales estimation that's very precise anymore for non-paying users. However, there are other ways that are precise enough. Okay, so I'm sharing Steam Spy. Let me know when you see it.
I can see your screen.
Yeah, okay. So this is Steam Spy. It's basically a bunch of reports of Steam's games, like showing release date and price, and an estimation, like a ballpark estimation of the number of owners. There's a better way to do that nowadays. I'll talk about that. So what you want here...
But here, well, okay, never mind.
Yeah, not here, no. So for example, if you want to estimate how many units Bladed Fury has sold, you can open this in a different tab. Can you still see my screen? Or
yes.
Yeah, and you go to the store, clicking over here, and this will open the Steam page for that game. Then you go over here to the number of reviews. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't need to click that. I click it just to show, but 956. and you do this 956 times 77. That's a crazy number that Jake Burkett found out. This is about the number of users that have this game in their Steam account. So that's an approximate, that's the approximate amount of sales that this game made. So you can multiply that by, this is showing in Brazilian reais. That's probably what, like $10, I guess. So this game probably made about this amount of money in dollars.
What amount? I only see Steam right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should also share my calculator. It's so I just multiplied this number by 77 and then by $10, and it's showing me $736,000. That's about how much money this game made so far.
Okay, so being specific to my game, I mean I only remember the end of transmission name. Let me find the other name was the circuit running game. How should I do the search?
Okay, this is a more advanced technique, but since I'm sharing my screen, I'll just show you how to do it. So what let's try to test this for one specific game. So what was the game that you said?
The circuit running. It's a game I'm creating. The one you saw.
Okay. Right. So can we think of similar games? The first step is think of similar games that you can remember. We have to start like that. And honestly, this is a genre that I don't know all that much. Like, I'm not a player of those types of games usually.
You can dial many times, like in Super Meat Boy. There is a game, a runner. It's a Cannibal, something like that. Maybe that game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Cannibal is not a commercial game, or if it is, it's monetized by ads, I think. But yeah, so one way to do that is Infinite Runner, for example. So let's start seeing the advanced stuff. This is Steam Spy, right? You go here to tags on the left.
Okay.
And you click it, and then you click on summary. And now it's showing a report with all the tags that are used in Steam and the number of games that use those tags. I don't know why they are ordered. Yeah, they are ordered by the price right now, like the median. And let's see if they have something like Infinite Runner. No, Runner, maybe Runner. They have 23 games tagged as Runner. Okay, now we have some. Turbo Pug. Yeah, Beat Trip Runner, definitely. That's one inspiration for that. Race the Sun. Yeah, there's a bunch of games. Mindless Running. Now let's see, and I haven't tested that, but let's open like a random game over here. These are games that sold really well, really well. So let's look at at games that didn't sell all that much. I don't know, like Jump, 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 for example. Let's open this one and open the storage page for that. It has one user review, so it probably didn't sell a lot, right? So let's skip this one. But you know, this is already part of the exercise, right? You're trying to figure out if this is something that makes sense or not. Actually, because this sold so poorly, I'm not even looking too much at it. But when you're doing this, you know, alone and dedicating a few hours to this exercise, you definitely should also look at the losers, because you need to understand what makes a loser, what makes a winner, right?
Yeah, one user review.
Yeah, that's terrible. This one has 8, but the gameplay doesn't look at all like what we're talking about. So it's kind of useless for us. Let's see why this game sold so poorly. So usually it's very apparent. Honestly, it's usually very apparent why those games didn't sell. So an absolute lack of attention magnets and art that looks subpar because of probably a poor choice of the art style, I guess. I mean, it's not. It's interesting because looking at the assets, you can see that it probably took the developer quite some time to develop this, right? But because he didn't make like some very good choices in terms of how we would compare against, like how to set the expectations and then jump over that, the game feels kind of crappy. So I would guess this is probably one of, a lack of any specific appeals, like an Infinite Runner on farms in Kentucky. I can't really understand what this game is about, honestly. So probably that's why it didn't sell a lot. Let's see more. Now, looking at one game won't bring a lot of information for you. Usually you have to open several games.
Okay.
I think this one we didn't. Bladed Fury. Not sure if this is, no, I don't think this is one of the. Let's look at the average game. These are the worst performing game. Let's look at an average game, like Vortex Rush, on the lower end of the average performing game. Let's see how this one looks. No user reviews. Okay, so this thing doesn't sell at all.
Okay, so it looks like runners are not well received in the Steam.
Well, let's take a look at this. So take a look at Bosom X. I'm now moving to the first page of results. Let's understand, because it's too early to make conclusions, to jump to conclusions, right? You have to spend time. Those are about 50 games. If you are seriously considering investing like 6 months of your life developing a game in this genre, spend one day looking at the 50 games, like the traders, and trying to figure out why they didn't sell, right? And the ones that did sell a lot, why they did sell, why this game that doesn't even look all that good sold like almost 100,000 copies.
Oh wow!
What's going on over here?
And this is exactly a voodoo, like a voodoo game. I don't remember the name, but it's the same. It's like a hyper casual game from mobile.
Yeah.
So
this one is.
What do you think? Why?
I have a few opinions here.
Okay.
First, whatever style these guys chose to tackle, they are delivering it well, right? So it's very stylized, low poly. For some reason it has enough juiciness going on. The colors are good. So I think it's attractive. Like graphics make a lot of difference, right? It's not like it's Battlefield 1 or anything, but for what it proposes to be, it looks good, right? This is one thing. Other thing that you cannot see, it's very difficult to see, but probably this game did a better job at marketing. Now you can count that you will also be doing a good job at marketing if you follow the bread and butter strategy, right? Because probably there are some games that are kind of as good as this one, and you have like 10 or 20 user reviews, but they didn't do a good job at marketing. Like they sent a press release to, I don't know, 20 different emails like Kotaku and IGN because the developer didn't really know how to do it, like how to scrap this data, how I'm teaching you how to do, right? Go to Steam Spy, find similar games, then use those games to search to Google search when they were released, what was published about them. Do you know how to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, so, the way you teach us.
Exactly. So research how, if there was any articles written about this Bosom X game, and find out the reporter's name, the journalist's name, and create your press list like that. Because now you're sending your email to someone who wrote an article about this game. So the odds of that person publishing about your game is much higher, right? This makes a lot of difference in sales. Also, something that's ridiculously simple to do, but for some reason, most developers never think about that. Just send an email to Steam asking them to highlight your game. Now, it's absolutely not guaranteed that they will, but there's a chance that they will, especially if you point them to articles that were written about your game, right? That thing that I teach. So this is another thing, right? Some of it, sometimes you'll see games that did really well that are kind of similar to games that didn't do all that well, and trying to get to learn. You know, you said kind of sticking to one genre. One advantage of doing that is that it gives you the peace of mind to really study that genre and really understand what's going on over there, why some games succeed and others don't, right? Because sometimes it's not obvious. Other times what happens is that one game did a decent promotional campaign and the other did not. Or one game was published by any publisher that's not really crappy, that has published at least 5 or 10 games. And if someone has published at least 5 or 10 games, they're probably doing something better than the average indie who has like no clue what to do, right? So being published increases the odds. If you are not published by someone else, but you do the steps in the bread and butter, you're probably getting the same sort of results, right? But ultimately, it's not really about like one particular game. It's more study the genre, study the champions, study the losers. Then when you start to having a grasp of how that genre kind of works, you go here and you try to estimate what is the simplest game over here that you could make. Like if I spend like 6 months developing this game, for example, you set yourself a deadline of 6 months. What kinds of games from this list you could make in 6 months? Oh, Cannabout is actually here. For some reason, it didn't show up. Obviously, it probably has sold a bunch of units, even though it was a free game. But yeah, Cannabout's over here. Now, let me teach you another part of this trick. Is it making sense so far?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So the second part to this trick is you won't necessarily be able to recall from the top of your mind which tags are relevant to describe your game. You know what your game is like, and you know some games that feel kind of similar. For example, you mentioned Super Meat Boy. One thing that you can do, or Cannabout, one thing that you can do is open that game's page on Steam, then come here and see what tags they are being used here. So this is a action side scroller, for example. It's possible that there are other games that are action side scrollers that have not been tagged as runners, but that still might be similar enough to what you are developing. So let's do a test. I'm not sure this will yield results, and this requires some trial and error, right? But it's still helpful. One trick that nobody knows exists, but you can come here to the list of tags. I'll see if I can open this in a different tab.
Is the Steam Spy free?
Yes, it is free.
Okay, perfect.
Let's find Cannabout. Actually, the tag for it is side scroller. Let's see if we can find side scrollers over here on the summary. Tags, side scroller. Okay, so you can copy from here the way that Steam Spy tags this tag. So it's side plus scroller, right? Now we come here on the other. So for example, we can do this and then action. This is the combination that Cannabout uses, like action, side scroller. And
why are you combining action side scroller if it has more tags like action platformer, action, and the other tag?
Honestly,
well, only those two.
I'm just guessing. I'm just trying out things.
Okay.
We have 26 pages of action side scrollers, so that's way too much. So let's narrow down a little bit more. Let's find more things that you feel apply to your game that you could probably use as a filter. So casual.
2D maybe? Oh, casual, yeah.
Which
casual
one?
Or 2D? 2D.
Okay, so let's see what 2D wields for us. Only 2D games. That's important, really. If you're not willing to make 3D games, definitely it makes a lot of difference in which types of games are possible, right? So it's a good filter. And it takes its while, it takes its time to filter. Okay, it's still 21 pages. So let's narrow down even further. Let's try casual just to see what happens. Limbo is definitely not casual, right? Also not, I think it's not casual. Kingdom, not casual. So let's try to remove the games that clearly have nothing to do with what we're talking about. Okay, so Limbo is still casual for some. Kingdom. Okay, what's going on over here? And this is one thing. They are not necessarily well tagged. They are not because developers can just add tags on, people can add tags on the games. So not necessarily, maybe like one person tagged Limbo as casual and it will show in this filter. But probably this is good enough
Right.
for us to start taking a look at some of the games, like Geometry Dash, for example. Let's take a look at this one.
I thought this one was only for mobile.
Okay, this has sold a fuck ton of units. What's going on over here? If I were you and I was as good as making this type of game as you are, I would definitely spend some time understanding why the fuck this has sold like, what the hell, man? Like 48, let's make, that's the math over here. These guys are very, very rich.
So how did they get there? Better say, if I'm trying to see
this thing
what
sold
they
almost 4 million units. I'm sorry, I just had to say it. It sold almost 4 million units at a price point of about like $3. So yeah, that's more than $10 million. That's what they made with this game.
Okay.
Why? You need to figure out. You know, if it takes you a month to figure out the answer, you are rich.
Yeah, but the thing there really is how I find the why. Something that I found about the way usually people talk about learning how to make games, and the way I think about learning about make games is like being very specific. For example, if I'm going to search the whys for a game, I'm trying to use the same example. Maybe there are criterias or topics that I can search for. For example, something that I'm learning from this course, this training, is I can to know why this game was so successful. I can try to see what attention magnets they used.
Yes.
But also I can try to see where what promotion tricks or strategies they use to get promoted. So I have two criteria or two filters, two how do you say this thing that is like lens. So
Right.
I have two lenses to look to and find why they could have been successful for those specific things. But there are more things like the game design, how difficult is the game, how vital might be. But I don't have experience on the virality on games, so I don't have criteria or knowledge on that. So I cannot um, like notice or at least I feel like that. I cannot tell, oh, this game was good because of this, because I don't have experience on virality, for example, or maybe some other things that I don't have or experience, or at least the theory. Like now I have the theory on the marketing, but those are only two things. So I have the marketing, the magnets, the some of the game design, maybe the art. Well, that's more towards the magnet. So I don't know how to find that. I can now, with the new knowledge, try to learn more about this, but I think there are many things that I will just overlook, you know.
Yeah, it's possible, and it's part of kind of mastering the genre, you know.
Okay.
like developing an eye for that. But for example, you know, I can spot quite a few things here that help this game. One is the visuals. They are not complex, but they are well delivered, right? So they not only don't hit an anti-magnet that, you know, because the thing is, hyper casual games, they're not necessarily difficult to make. So there's a lot of people making them, and it's not super difficult to get something working, even though it might be difficult to have something good. But because this tends to be made also by inexperienced developers, you will all the time you'll see games that just don't feel polished. They don't feel polished. They set the bar somewhere and they don't jump as high as they should, and the game is perceived as kind of like a crappy attempt at doing something. Now, this is a very smart art style because it's not difficult to make. The difficult thing here is choosing the colors, basically. Like, it's all about the colors. But otherwise, like, the shapes are super simple. Like, it's you can totally, for example, if you wanted to create a copycat of this game, you could do the graphics yourself, no problem, right? It's not super difficult. It's just about copying. But if you want to create something new, it's not difficult either because the paradigm is smart. It's a smart paradigm to make a game that looks good, right? So it's simple shapes, high contrast, strong, vibrant colors, well-chosen color palettes, and probably lots of juiciness like smoke effects and things, you know, the interactivity and all that. So it feels like a very high quality representative of this genre. Have you ever played a game called Maverick Bird? I think I mentioned this game.
What's the name again?
Maverick Bird. Let me see if I can find it here. Maverick Bird. It's this game over here that Terry Kavanagh, very famous developer, developed for Flappy Jam. When everyone was making clones of Flappy Bird just for fun. It's a game that kind of looks like an Atari game. And, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I have seen that.
And, you know, this is a game that no matter how simple the graphic style, it just delivers. It just over delivers, right? It sets the expectation somewhere and then jumps way over that. So just by not looking like a low quality version of something, but like a high quality version of something, regardless of what that something is, just setting the bar on purpose somewhere where you can over deliver in terms of graphic style, that would probably filter like 90% of the failed attempts at making games on any genre, really, including this one that we're looking at, just as an example. And this thing that I'm teaching you, this procedure, like using Steam Spy and the Steam page and multiplying the number of reviews by 77, these are things that you can do for any game, right? Combine tags. When you are having trouble figuring out how to describe your game, you can try to surround it by, for example, opening the page for Super Meat Boy and Super Metroid, and I don't know, and Braid, for example, if these are your inspirations for one particular game, and try to see which tags they have in common. And then you go back to Steam Spy and search using those tags, and you'll probably discover like 10 games or 20 games that are maybe not exactly like the thing that you want to make, but are similar enough to help you gauge the size of the markets, right? And then you can do the math, like get into some of these games pages, take a look at how many units they sold, and see if selling that amount of units, you know, I'll make a disclaimer in a second, but see if that amount of units is sustainable for you. It will pay for the development time.